One song, one massive hit, then nothing. Picture this, wood-paneled rec rooms, 8 tracks in the dash, and bell-bottoms swaying to unforgettable melodies. The 1970s produced more one-hit wonders than any other decade in music history, with 43% of Billboard Top 10 hits coming from artists who never charted again. Remember those songs that seemed to play everywhere, then disappeared overnight? What made this musical era so uniquely volatile? Today, we're reopening the musical vault to uncover 9 songs that defined their moment before vanishing from airwaves. These tracks are cultural artifacts that tell us exactly what America was thinking, feeling, and experiencing during one of our most transformative decades. Norman Greenbaum's Spirit in the Sky, the unlikely gospel hit from a Jewish musician. When the unmistakable fuzz guitar intro of Spirit in the Sky starts playing, you probably can't help but nod along. But did you know this iconic gospel rock anthem was created by Norman Greenbaum? A Jewish musician with zero gospel background? Back in 1969, Greenbaum was inspired after watching Porter Wagoner perform a gospel song on TV. Living in a small farmhouse filled with chickens at the time, Norman created that distinctive buzzing sound using a $50 Fender Telecaster guitar with a fuzz-tone pedal. To achieve the signature echoing effect, producer Eric Jacobson had him record in a bathroom at the studio for better acoustics. The song dominated the airwaves in 1970, selling over 2 million copies and reaching number 3 on the Billboard charts. Its raw psychedelic guitar combined with straightforward lyrics about the afterlife perfectly captured America's spiritual curiosity during the era. The unusual recording techniques created a sound that resonated with listeners experimenting with Eastern philosophies and alternative spirituality. Carl Douglas and Kung Fu Fighting, the disco hit that rode a cultural wave.
Everybody was kung fu fighting!
From spiritual rock anthems to lightning-fast kicks, sometimes the biggest hits emerge from the most unexpected moments.
Those kids were fast as lightning!
While Greenbaum carefully crafted his signature sound, Carl Douglas created his defining hit almost by accident, when a last-minute studio recording collided with America's growing martial arts obsession. In 1974, Douglas stepped into a London recording studio to record a different song entirely. With just 10 minutes of studio time remaining, he quickly recorded Kung Fu Fighting as a B-side track, complete with those iconic ho-ho-ho vocals and chopping sound effects. Terry Jacks' Seasons in the Sun.
Goodbye, my friend, it's hard to die.
The cheerful melody with dark lyrics that captivated America. Sometimes the most successful songs contain the strangest contradictions. What if I told you that one of the decade's catchiest melodies was actually a song about saying goodbye to loved ones before death? Terry Jacks' Seasons in the Sun presented this peculiar paradox, a sunshine-bright tune paired with profoundly somber lyrics that somehow captivated America in 1974. Like a deceptively calm sea hiding dangerous currents beneath, this song originated as Les Moribonds.
When all the birds are singing in the sky.
Written by French poet Jacques Brel. When Jacques adapted the European poem about mortality, he created something uniquely appealing to American listeners through his upbeat arrangement and accessible vocals, a transformation the Kingston Trio had previously attempted without success.
Now that the spring is in the air.
The timing couldn't have been more perfect. As Americans processed collective grief following Vietnam, this cheerful melody, carrying heavy themes, offered a comforting way to confront mortality without being overwhelmed. The song acknowledged pain while remaining oddly hopeful, exactly what the nation needed. Vicki Lawrence's The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia, the TV comedian's surprise murder ballad. Not all musical gems come from career musicians chasing stardom. Sometimes they emerge from the most unexpected places, like a comedy show. While Terry Jacks was abandoning the spotlight for environmental causes, a television comedian was about to turn a rejected song into one of the decade's most chilling musical narratives. Vicki Lawrence, known for making audiences laugh on The Carol Burnett Show, shocked everyone with The Night the Lights Went Out in Georgia in 1973. This Southern Gothic murder ballad had initially been written for superstar Cher, who turned it down, believing it was too dark for her image. That rejection created the perfect opportunity for Lawrence, whose storytelling talents from comedy translated surprisingly well to this complex tale. The song unfolds a spine-tingling narrative where betrayal leads to murder and culminates in a devastating twist, the quiet sister exacting deadly vengeance when the courts would fail. It captivated listeners, sending it straight to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. What made it particularly powerful was how it tapped into America's growing fascination with Southern culture and increasing skepticism about the justice system, much like today's true crime obsession reveals our complicated relationship with authority during times of social upheaval. Looking Glass and Brandy, You're a Fine Girl.
The sailor said, Brandy, you're a fine girl. What a good wife you would be. Such a fine girl. Your eyes could steal a sailor from the sea.
The maritime tale that ruled summer 72. From the blood-soaked revenge ballad of rural Georgia, we sail into calmer waters with one of the most instantly recognizable maritime tales ever set to music.
There's a pretty chain made of finest silver from the north.
In the summer of 1972, a New Jersey band called Looking Glass captured America's heart with the bittersweet story about a harbor town barmaid named Brandy. What made this nautical narrative so compelling wasn't just its catchy chorus, but its perfectly crafted storyline. Inspired by a real New Jersey barmaid, the song chronicles Brandy's unrequited love for a sailor who ultimately chooses the freedom of the sea over settling down. My life, my lover, my lady is the sea, he tells her, a line that eloquently captures the eternal conflict between the call of adventure and the comforts of domesticity.
A locket that bears the name of a man that ran.
Though Brandy topped the charts and sold over 1 million copies, Looking Glass, formed in 1969 by Elliot Laurie, Jeff Grove, Glenn Burtnick, and Mickey McGowan, couldn't stay afloat in the music industry. Their follow-up singles like Golden Earring and Jimmy Loves Marianne barely made ripples on the charts. By 1974, the band had disbanded entirely, with members drifting to different musical shores. Elliot Laurie continued writing and producing, while Glenn Burtnick eventually joined the rock band Styx. Maria Muldaur's Midnight at the Oasis.
Midnight at the oasis, send your camel to bed.
The sensual desert fantasy that captivated radio. While rock and pop dominated the airwaves in 1974, a folk singer with little interest in pop stardom created one of radio's most seductive hits.
Shadows painting our faces, traces.
Maria Muldaur's Midnight at the Oasis broke all the rules of what made a hit in the 70s, yet somehow captured America's imagination anyway. Before captivating mainstream audiences, Muldaur had established herself in Greenwich Village's vibrant folk scene as a member of the Jim Kweskin Jug Band. Her musical roots were firmly planted in folk and blues traditions, worlds away from the polished pop landscape she briefly conquered. When songwriters David and Jan Nichtern presented her with Midnight at the Oasis, they brought together an unusual musical cocktail, blending jazz elements with folk sensibilities and distinctive Middle Eastern influences.
A romance in our head, heaven's holding a half moon.
The song's suggestive lyrics were hardly subtle, with lines inviting listeners to comb your camel's hair. And promising you won't need no camel when I take you for a ride, the song managed to slip past radio censors while clearly communicating its intentions. The exotic desert setting provided just enough metaphorical distance to make the seduction palatable for mainstream radio. Hot Butter's Popcorn. The synthesizer novelty that predicted electronic music's future. While Garrett's soulful guitar was melting hearts, a completely different sound was about to bubble up the charts. One with no guitars, no drums, and not a single human voice in sight. In 1972, a quirky electronic instrumental called Popcorn was about to show the world what music might sound like in the future. Nearly 3 decades before electronic dance music went mainstream. Originally composed by Gershon Kingsley in 1969, Popcorn found fame when keyboardist Stan Free and his group Hot Butter transformed it. The track abandoned traditional instruments entirely for the otherworldly sounds of the Moog synthesizer. Like corn kernels bursting in rapid succession, those distinctive pop, pop, pop effects created a sonic preview of music's electronic future. For most Americans, this marked their first encounter with electronic music on the radio. Despite critics dismissing it as a passing fad, Popcorn topped charts in at least 10 countries and reached number 9 on Billboard's Hot 100. The public wasn't ready for this electronic revolution, however. Hot Butter's experimental sounds proved too forward-thinking, and their follow-up synthesizer singles failed to capture the same magic. Stan Free's innovations would wait another generation before becoming the foundation for entire musical genres. Starland vocal band's Afternoon Delight.
Gonna find my baby, gonna hold her tight, gonna grab some afternoon delight.
The innocent-sounding song about midday sex. While synthesizers failed to captivate mainstream America, a completely different sound was quietly sneaking onto family radios nationwide. A cheerful tune about afternoon romance that somehow became acceptable for church picnics. In 1976, the newly formed Starland vocal band released what might be the most misunderstood hit in music history. Afternoon Delight, with its innocent-sounding 4-part harmonies and sky imagery, disguised its true nature so effectively that millions sang along without realizing they were celebrating daytime intimacy.
My motto's always been, when it's right, why wait until the middle of a cold, dark night?
Bill Denneff found inspiration in an unexpected place, a restaurant menu featuring a late lunch special called Afternoon Delight. The resulting song rocketed to number 1 on the Billboard charts and sold over 1 million copies. What's remarkable was how thoroughly its sexual content flew over listeners' heads. Parents, grandparents, and children alike hummed those lyrics about skyrockets in flight without catching the obvious innuendo. Wild Cherries, play that funky music. The rock band's accidental funk classic. Sometimes the most reluctant musical journeys produce the most enduring hits. Wild Cherry never intended to venture into funk territory. They were a rock band through and through, playing their amplified guitars in clubs around Pittsburgh in the early 70s. But as disco fever spread across America's dance floors, the band faced a recurring problem at their shows. Night after night, audience members would shout at them to play that funky music. Lead singer Rob Parisi initially resisted these demands. After all, they were committed to their rock identity. But eventually, this persistent audience pressure sparked a moment of creative surrender. Parisi transformed their frustration into inspiration, writing a song that documented their own musical metamorphosis. When Play That Funky Music hit airwaves in 1976, its infectious guitar riff and autobiographical lyrics about a white boy playing rock and roll, learning to embrace funk, immediately connected with listeners. Crowds would erupt when the opening notes played, their enthusiasm validating the band's musical pivot. The song topped the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks, while simultaneously conquering the R&B charts, a rare achievement bridging musical worlds. Blue Suede's Hooked on a Feeling.
I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me.
The Swedish cover with the unforgettable Ooga Chaka. Sometimes the most recognizable songs come from the most unexpected places. While American audiences were busy grooving to Wild Cherry's reluctant funk hit, a Swedish band was preparing to conquer the charts with a borrowed sound that wasn't even theirs to begin with.
Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me.
When Blue Suede released Hooked on a Feeling in 1974, they built upon British singer Jonathan King's 1971 cover, which introduced the now iconic Ooga Chaka chanting. Led by vocalist Bjorn Skifs, they amplified this tribal intro to create their signature sound, much like a catchy audio clip goes viral today.
When you hold me in your arms so tight, don't let me go.
This track remarkably topped the Billboard Hot 100, despite being a twice-covered song performed by Swedes with thick accents. American listeners embraced it completely, chanting along with those infectious Ooga Chakas.